Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another video. Today we're on the Andorran side of the border. Andorra's here, Spain is over there. And in normal life, we all have two worlds, two realities. There's the outside world that you share with everyone else, and then there's the inside world, right? The stuff that you don't share with anyone. This is all your thoughts, all your ideas, your mind. It's all you. And, I'm not saying that you don't share any of it, but you don't share most of it. 99.9% of the stuff that goes on in your head stays in there. Good job as well, as far as I'm concerned. What happens when you stop the flow of alcohol? What happens to these two different perspectives when you stop the flow of alcohol? Well, the outside world is easy enough, right? It goes on with its own thing. You don't fit into certain places anymore. You don't fit into certain people's lives anymore. But everyone else, it carries on its own merry way. It doesn't know that you've stopped drinking alcohol. It doesn't care, right? Now, your inside world, that's an entirely different matter. Once you stop the flow of alcohol, and the same can be said for any massive change in your life. All of a sudden, you're creating a split between wanting to continue doing the thing that you've been doing, in this case, drinking alcohol, and stopping doing the thing that you've been doing for so long. For me, it was over 30 years, right? Which is unplugging from the alcohol, unplugging yourself and never going back. And this is ambiguity, and it causes a split in your motivation, right? One part of you is dragging you one way and another part is dragging you in another way. And when I look back at my own life now, look back at my own sense of what I was going through at the time, it's kind of comedic, when I think about it. It looks that way when I look back on it. When you've got some distance from these things, right? When you're looking back on these things at some future time, you always look back with kinder eyes, especially if you've been improving. I mean, if your life hasn't improved, you're not going to look back. You look back with nostalgia and you think, oh, the times of the past, they were the times. But if your life has improved, if you've done the work, stopped the flow, do the work, moved on to something better, then you're going to look back with kinder eyes to your past, right? And I'm not talking about from a nostalgic point of view, but more of a forgiving point of view, right? That's after you've been separated from the discomfort by a few months, maybe even a few years in some cases, right? So if you were trying to explain it to somebody else, if I was trying to explain what was going on in my head at that time to someone else, well, I was having this battle going on in my mind, good versus evil. One part of me was trying to drag me away. The other part of me was pulling me in the opposite direction. It was pure bedlam. They even tried to call a priest up on stage. They didn't, but you know what I mean? All joking aside, it wouldn't be too bad if there was a general direction that you were heading in this, right? But it's not, it's the opposite of that, It's confusion, it's disorder, it's chaos, it's pandemonium. It's like there's an internal anarchy going on, lawlessness, right? And you're going from a state of being where everything might be fucked up and everything might be going on wrong, right? But it's still, what's going to happen. If you drink, there's going to be a hangover, right? That if you drink, you might say some shit, right? So you can kind of guess what's going to happen. So when you stop, there's a kind of a tug of war going on, and there's not much you can do about that at the time, except to do what you know is right? And that's the thing. You already know the truth of this. You already know what's the right thing to do. That's what the discomfort is all about. That's what the pain of you making that decision and stepping over that line into your new life. That's what that's all about. I always say to people, it's a tough decision to make. It took me so long to make this decision. But once I've made the decision, it took a little bit of courage to keep going, but once I was going on, the more you avoid doing the right thing, right, the more discomfort is going to be fed into your life. And that's why, the discomfort ramps up in your life. So if you take these two scenarios, right, and there's only two scenarios here, right? You keep drinking the alcohol or you stop drinking the alcohol, that's it. You know where one scenario is going to lead you. Like I said, you keep doing what you're doing, keep on down that path, you take the result, you multiply that, right? And that's your outcome. That's what's going to be your outcome. You keep drinking, keep damaging yourself, and keep damaging your life. You already know where it's going to lead you, because that's the life that you're living right now. You know, that's the life that has been causing you and is causing you enough discomfort, enough pain, enough trouble, the problems, the difficulties. You don't need me to tell you any of this, but it's what's causing you all of these things and what's causing you to make that decision, or to at least open your mind to making that decision, right? That book has already been written, and we all know how these kind of stories end. They don't end well. Now the complication is there's no certainty in the other scenario, right? Stopping drinking alcohol, unplugging yourself from the alcohol, stopping the flow, unplugging the alcohol, unplugging the habit. You don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know what's going to happen. How can you know anything? You know, I was plugged into the alcohol delusion for over 30 years, and when I stopped, it was like, what the fuck do I know about living life without alcohol? Not much. But once you stop the flow of alcohol, you start unplugging yourself from the alcohol habit, you're putting yourself into a much better position to deal with anything that life can throw you, right? Without the alcohol, what lies in front of you is an unwritten book, and you're the author, right? If you've ever sat down in front of an empty page, you know it's not the easiest thing in the world, right? To face that empty page, waiting for the words to arrive, right? Waiting for that inspiration, or the aspiration even sometimes. Waiting for something to happen, for anything to happen, especially so since you're approaching this from the perspective of a clear mind, right? Remember writing stuff, you know, when I was drinking, I remember trying to write things. I always wanted to be an author. When I was a kid, growing up, I wanted to be an author. I wanted to be, I had dreams of being the youngest ever science fiction author. I used to like people like Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that never turned out, but I always had that writing in my brain. So oftentimes when I was drunk, I would write things, and I would write. When I was writing them when I was drunk, I would be thinking that I was making all the sense in the world, that it was witty, that it was deep, that it was breaking new ground. And then reading it the next day, and I remember thinking, what a complete pile of shite. A clear mind can tackle the thickest fog of life's challenges. You know, at least you can work your way through that fog, right, when you've got a clear mind. That's not the case with the fog. That's a constant companion when you're drinking. There's no way through that, you know, because that fog is not only with you when you're drinking, it's with you after you've stopped drinking, you know, and you're waiting for the next session to come around. You know, that's when the confusion comes around. That's when the problems come around. That's when all the difficulties in life come, because you've got that fogged up mind, right? And it's only when you stop drinking that the fog lifts and you're able to start thinking clearly. Now, just because the path becomes visible for you doesn't mean to say it's going to be easy to navigate, right? It doesn't mean that you can comprehend what you see in front of you. You know, there's obstacles in your path. There's frontiers that you have to cross before. Once you cross that, then you can understand a bit more. It's like climbing up. We call it laddering up process in Habits V2. You start at the bottom. Sometimes you have to come down a ladder before you can climb up the next ladder, but that's a different story. When you're at the bottom of the ladder, you climb up a little bit and you can see a bit further. And the more you climb up that ladder, the further you can see, the more wider your perspective is in your own life, just about yourself and about your own experiences, your own knowledge, your own everything, you know. So, now we're facing that blank page sometimes when you're sat down and you've got that in front of you. You know, metaphorically speaking, sometimes you just have to write. You have to write in order for these things to take shape, for things to reveal themselves to you. There's a style of writing called stream of consciousness writing, and you take some sheets of paper, you set a timer for whatever, 5 or 10 minutes. I used to do it for 10 minutes, and you just write. You don't pause to think, you just write, and you continue writing, and whatever comes into your head, even if it's repetition, again, it's something that takes practice, but it's worth trying out. And that's the kind of thing with experimentation. When you stop, it's stream of conscious experimentation. Go out and try things. People talk about this all the time with socializing. I'm going to lose these friends. What do I do to socialize? Experiment. How do I overcome my fear of shyness? Experiment. Try different things. That's what we do when we're kids, when you're growing up. But we short circuit all of this by drink. I did this myself when I was growing up. I was shy. So instead of experimenting and going out and trying different things to overcome my shyness, to beat it, to grow into it, to grow into my life, grow into my person, I didn't. I short-circuited it with alcohol. And then when I stopped drinking, there were certain times in my life when I could overcome that shyness because I couldn't drink in those situations. Like, you can't go to work and drink, so you overcome your shyness in those circumstances, and some of that spills over into your other life, but you're still short-circuiting that process. You're still bringing all this stuff into your life that is pubs and other drinkers, and they have to drink and you have to drink, and it's all bullshit, right? So anyway, look, we're diverging a bit here. What I'm talking about with the writing, with facing your life, with that experimentation, with facing that blank page, I'm talking about that in a metaphorical sense, and I mean you're facing into the unknown, but it's your unknown. You can look at it like it's scary, that it's a place of fear, that it's something to fear, or you can look at it like it's a place full of potential. I look around here and that's a tough mountain up there to climb, but it's full of potential because you can climb up all different places. There's so many different walks around here. There's so many things to do in life. It's a small little corner of the world. The world is massive, So think about it like true understanding and growth requires effort on one hand and introspection on the other hand, right? So you're talking about effort in the outside world to make that life fit with your new self, and introspection to make the inside world fit with your new self. However, that first step in solving any challenge is recognizing that the challenge exists and that you can do something about the challenge, right? You have got the ability to do that. And, even if you haven't got the skills to do it, you can learn the skills, right? You first have to be able to see, right? You have to be able to see the challenge. And you have a much better chance of seeing life's challenges and dealing with life's challenges with the alcohol-induced brain fog gone. Right, so we're going to end it here. If you want to support what we do here on YouTube, I'd appreciate if you consider supporting us on Patreon. The link's in the description below, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been kind enough to help us out so far. Your support is very much appreciated. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you again soon. Onwards and upwards, eh? Bye now.